Thank you. It's day 6 of a great haircut. Good evening, everyone. So a Texas man accused of swallowing diamonds he stole from Tiffany's has decided to represent himself in court, but said he should be able to afford a lawyer once the prunes kick in. The Democrat mayor of an LA suburb admitted to being a Chinese agent. And already Eric Swalwell is trying to roofie her. Disgraced former CNN host Don Lemon is teasing a 2028 presidential run. I know. And if he joins forces with Pete Buttigieg, it'll be the first time both candidates insist on being the bottom of the ticket. I don't get it. I don't get it. New York City aims to shut down a hot Asian lady brothel after an undercover officer was offered manual stimulation. In fact, one officer heroically returned 20 times to verify the evidence. Here we go. RFK Jr. claims teenage boys in the 1970s had twice as much sperm as today's teens. This after a careful study of socks. Come on. So proud of that. 18 hantavirus cruise passengers are being quarantined, and while experts say there's no real risk of an outbreak, they're still urging one woman to wear a mask. Because she's ugly. Tiger Woods appeared earlier today in a Florida courtroom. He wasn't scheduled to appear. He just lost control of his SUV and crashed into the courthouse. Sad story. President Trump is traveling to China with Elon Musk, Tim Cook, and 15 billionaire CEOs. I haven't seen that many billionaires on a plane since I flew to an island with my buddy Jeff. You know, guy gets a bad rap. Kidding. Very awful human being. And finally, Iran is assuring the media that Iran's missing supreme leader is still fully in charge and commanding the armed forces. This, according to their new spokesperson, Karine Jean-Pierre. That was funny. So a new survey says that over a third of Democrats believe the White House Correspondents' Dinner shooting was staged. Yeah, over a third. Or as AOC would call it, 80%. The same survey found that 42% of Dems think the Butler assassination attempt was also staged. And 26% think the same thing about the attempt at the Florida golf course. So the same people claiming Trump needs to be impeached because he's senile also claims he managed to stage at least 3 attempts on his life. If you think he's that great an actor, you've never seen Home Alone 2. Then again, these people spent 4 years insisting Joe was as sharp as a tack while he wandered the White House looking for the bathroom, which for Joe was any room with a corner. Good thing it's an Oval Office. Otherwise, I'll take it. Otherwise, the place would be soaked in nature's miracle. But forget faking his own death. Biden spent 4 years faking he was alive. But these numbers tell you something important. Americans no longer trust anything. And it was the left and their fellow travelers in the media who created that mindset. Why wouldn't people distrust our institutions, especially after they were lied to about a demented president, his criminal son, the border, crime, and a global pandemic? The same people who told us to trust the experts also told us Trump was a Russian asset and COVID came from anywhere but a Chinese lab. And now the media pretends to hate conspiracy thinking. Right. No, they don't. Not at all. This idea that Trump's near assassinations are staged, it works for them. It makes Trump the villain and not the victim. And if a person believes the attacks are staged, they're more likely to vote for a Democrat. But hey, maybe it was staged. In the broader sense, the stage was set. It's like what home sellers do before an open house. They stage it, so you feel good about the place. Shampoo the carpets, open the blinds and curtains, move the grandfather clock in front of the secret door that leads to the soundproof sex dungeon. Likewise, the media and Dems set the stage for people to hate Trump enough that maybe someone might close the deal. For nearly a decade, Trump's been called Hitler, a fascist, a dictator, a threat to democracy, Satan with a comb-over to hide his devil horns. The threat itself was staged. Democracy dies if this man wins. He'll imprison journalists. America is over. Political rhetoric became a mission briefing. If you tell emotionally unstable people over and over that someone is an existential threat to humanity, eventually one of them decides they're going to be the hero in this movie. But you can't turn the political temperature up to insane levels every single day, then pretend it wasn't on you when it blows up. And they're still staging it by not honestly reporting how bad this left-wing lunacy has gotten. So the assassination attempt may not have been explicitly staged, but the environment for it was and is. Don't forget, these are the same people who hired a TV producer to stage a show trial after the so-called insurrection. They've dressed up more lies than my series of unfortunate dates in Thailand. The media spent years demolishing trust for short-term political gain, and now the left keeps shooting conservatives and blaming the victims. They want their side to win so badly, even if it takes someone's life. They destroyed truth in the service to their politics because they know that their politics can't handle the truth.
Let's welcome tonight's guest.
He was in the Air Force, but it's his suits that are really fly. Host of Making Money on Fox Business, Charles Page. His comedy act is single-handedly causing a spike in tomato sales. Comedian Joe Mackey. In high school, she was voted too attractive to be on CNN. New York Post columnist Lydia Moynihan. And his act is harder to get through than the Strait of Hormuz. Actor, writer, comedian Jamie Lissow. Charles, always a pleasure to have you on this show. You light up my day.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, you're supposed to say you do the same, Greg.
Oh, you do the same, especially with the haircut.
Oh, thank you. You like it, don't you?
do.
It's kind of like yours in a way.
Yeah.
Salt and peppery.
Distinguished.
Yes, glasses and everything. Well, I'm not wearing glasses. Shut up, Greg. What do you think of these polls? Do you get anything out of them?
I love the monologue. I did pause for a second because it took me like 7 times to find the right house because I couldn't find a sex dungeon room. But now I know why. But anyway, I digress. If you look at this so-called manifesto from what were we supposed to say? Alleged.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alleged assassin.
It read like the mainstream media. Like it read like as if we were listening to CNN. Mm-hmm. It was just a CNN monologue.
Yes.
And so to your point, they've messed up the Democrats so badly. Think about this. Democratic women their fertility rate is 0. They're not having any kids. They won't get married. They're depressed. You look at the confidence numbers. This has backfired on this group of people. Mm-hmm. They have a lot of mental illnesses. The mental anguish is off the charts. They have actually backfired. This whole campaign of hate against President Trump has backfired, and it's actually killing people who fall for it. It's destroying half this country.
That is a great point, that it's like all of this energy just bounces off him, and you see these high rates of psychological disorders. They're not having kids. They think the world... Basically, Trump is the new climate change. That's what it is. That's what it is, Joe. Joe, you're a skeptical guy. You question everything. You question authority. You obviously didn't question your stylist. I kid, he doesn't have a stylist. He barely owns his own clothes. Tell me about your thoughts on this. Do you think that this could be staged?
Hardy har, Greg. I am a rebel, a bit of a conspiracy theorist, if you will. I think that the deep state is real, that COVID was made in a lab, that when women say that they want a guy with a great sense of humor, they're full of crap. But Look, I understand why people don't believe a narrative. I mean, the media lies all the time, and a lot of things have been hoaxes, like Charlottesville or Jussie Smollett or the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping, but usually there's evidence for it. That's why I would always go back to Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is usually the right one. Now, there's a whole bunch of people calling Trump Hitler. There's a whole bunch of crazy people that want him dead. And the Secret Service hasn't proven to be all that competent. Do you believe that that's what happened? Or do you believe that Trump thought, oh, being shot at twice wasn't enough? So I'm going to try for a third term. To believe that, I'd have to be a Democrat.
Now, tell me more about Mr. Occam.
He loves to shave.
Yes, he does. You know, Lydia, don't you think that these conspiracy theories are helpful to Democrats? Because the more you look at Trump as a target and a victim, the more it helps them. So they love these conspiracies.
Yeah, Trump doesn't like being a victim, though, which is pretty interesting. So I was there that night, and I'm beginning to think I've been getting all these messages that I was a paid actor.
Yes.
Nothing.
Yeah.
If there's going to be a conspiracy theory, please loop me in next time, because I think I deserve a livable wage from this. No, the Democratic Party is in dire straits because, what, about a third of people think this was a conspiracy? Probably a third, at least, are just bummed that the gunman missed, which is kind of alarming. The idea, though, that Trump would purposely be in on an opportunity that would limit his ability to give a speech that night, where the only thing he had to do was literally to eviscerate the mainstream media and go after them. This was like his dream setup. He would not do anything.
He wanted to do it anyway.
He was like,
let's re-rack
there's
this
a
bad
gunman.
boy, yeah.
I'm going back. I gotta tell these jokes.
Yeah. No, it's true. This is like, he was probably the most pissed off person there. Jamie, you wish you had more staging in your life. It's been chaotic, depressing, miserable.
That's true. I went to a play last night. The whole thing seemed staged. Don't you think, knowing Trump, that if there was a script, if this was staged, would it have been this boring?
Yeah.
Wouldn't Trump have caught the bullet in his teeth in front of an American flag? It's like... For anybody that screamed, this is staged before looking at evidence, I think you have to look at, are you letting your feelings about Trump override the evidence? And the way to look at that is to go, what if it had been Obama? Would it changed how you thought? I feel like a lot of the voices we hear would have gone, no, this is a serious, credible threat. But all you did was change the target. You didn't change any of the evidence. So it's not skepticism.
Yeah.
It's political tribalism or TDS. A wise man once told me, he said, no amount of evidence can persuade an idiot. And I remember my dad said that to me when I told him, I thought I'd eventually sleep with a girl.
You know what? That was called premature laughter.
It was.
You're used to that, aren't you?
Yeah.
You know, that was a good joke, and I didn't even mean to make it.
Yeah.
The last point is, you got to point out the same people that are saying this is staged completely ignored the SPLC story, which was basically staging hate crime hoaxes. Funny. It was funny to me. All right, audience, maybe you don't care.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.